everyone, so moving over to video number 2 now. So in my previous video I was just saying how much I disagree with Damien Milton and his whole double empathy stuff, and I was saying how actually for me it's a real innate problem which is there with autistics and non-autistics. I struggle just as much to empathise with autistics as I do with non-autistics. The other thing I'd like to say with this whole stuff about autistics being really empathetic and not struggling with empathy, and now it's like people are going out of their way almost to show that this isn't the case. It's like a kind of reaction formation because of this misunderstanding about what empathy actually is and equating problems with it with somehow not caring, when that is completely not true at all. We now have this kind of reaction formation where lots of people, autistic and non-autistic, are trying to say that autistics are really empathetic and really attuned to other people's feelings. We're actually creating a danger here of actually potentially creating a new stereotype, like a positive stereotype, of autistics being extremely empathetic, which actually ends up excluding people like me. What I see is that the original definition of autism, which fit me to an absolute max. I should do a video at some point about the bits of autism I fit into and the bits of autism that don't apply to me. But I fit very, very well, barring some, there are some exceptions obviously, but I do fit very, very, very well the original definition of Asperger's syndrome before it was diluted by the neurodiversity movement. So when Asperger's was seen as a very serious disabling condition, not the kind of like Asperger light that we now get these days, like what's her name? I can't even think of her name now. Sykes. Before it was heavily diluted and colonised essentially by these very, very able people. But I fit the original definition almost to the max. When people like Lorna Wing and Uta Frith talk about people with Asperger's struggling with empathy and not being able to show feelings, I'm like, that is me. Like, completely me. It's almost like, yeah, it's me, completely me. And that was really helpful at the time when I came out of my sense of denial and I finally came to understand that, I have a problem and I need to get help for this and everything, because my parents had noticed it for like years. It's just I was in denial about it. And it helped, it explained a lot. And it also showed I wasn't, there were reasons for my difficulties with empathy and my problems relating to other people, my problems reading other people and so on. Now it's like they're going the other way and they're saying that autistic people are extremely empathetic. And it seems to me they've created a whole new condition in the process. So maybe there's another condition which also has social difficulties that makes people extremely empathetic. It's not the condition I have. So maybe they actually need to go and create a new name for this condition, because it's not what I have. I feel that autism as it was originally defined, or Asperger's as it was originally defined, has basically been colonised by extremely able people who don't like the original definition because it doesn't apply to them, makes you wonder whether they're actually autistic in the first place, who are now going on about autistics not actually struggling with empathy. And it is really harmful for people like me who actually do meet the original definition, who are basically now being turfed out. That's what it feels like. We're basically being turfed out because autism is being colonised by this group of really able people who don't have problems with empathy. And who are going on about double empathy and all of this, and autistics are really super empathetic and all of that. People like me, it's almost like we're a problem. Because we meet the original definition, people get angry almost about our existence. The fact is, there are people like me who actually have an empathy disorder. We actually struggle with empathy, but it's like we're almost like an inconvenience now, because we remind people about what autism actually is, or what it was before it was colonised by people who probably don't even have it. I'm not supposed to say that, I don't care. People like Sykes. It's like we're an inconvenience almost. But as I said in my other videos, a lot of it as well is this misunderstanding about what empathy actually is, and people thinking it somehow means you don't care or that you're not a nice person, when it's completely not what empathy is. I really struggle with empathy, and I'm not going to beat around the bush, because I struggle with empathy. It's basically a fact. 0 degrees empathy. Simon Cohen said it all in his book. It doesn't mean you don't care. And as I said in my other videos, of course I'm not completely without empathy. As one of you I think put in a comment, which I really liked, it is more basically a handicap in that respect. You know, I'm hampered by it. I do have some empathy, but obviously it's massively hampered, because, you know, it's I have some. It's not, you know, I have some theory of mind. It's not completely absent. For some autistics, by the way, it actually is completely absent, but they tend to be the very, 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 very profound ones who often can't speak and things like that. But like I say, for most autistics, it's not like we lack it absolutely, completely, but it is a deficit. There is a deficit there. And I struggle with theory of mind, and I also struggle with effective empathy. I struggle with both. It doesn't mean I don't care about people, because I do care about people. It doesn't mean I don't have a moral compass, because I have a very strong moral compass. I always try and do the right thing. I have a conscience. I don't want people to die. I don't want people to suffer. So it doesn't mean I'm a bad person in any way. But I do struggle with empathy. That's a fact, and it's related to my autism. And basically, if you struggle to read other people, if you struggle to interpret their facial expressions, if you are not on the same wavelength as them, if you're not picking up on their feelings, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to empathise with other people. If you're not motivated socially, if you prefer objects to people, that's not to say, when I say prefer objects to people, by the way, I don't mean that doesn't mean you don't have any social motivation. Like, you know, it doesn't mean you don't want to connect with people. I do want to connect with people, otherwise I wouldn't be doing YouTube videos, okay? But I do have a preference to prefer objects to people. That would be a bit like, say, a non-autistic person preferring people to objects. That doesn't mean they don't have favourite objects that they love dearly, do you know what I mean? So just because I prefer objects to people doesn't mean I don't have any people drive at all. It just means that relative to my preference to objects, my preference for social interaction is a lot reduced. So it's all relative. It's just relative to my preference for objects. I prefer objects, in my case books and things like that, to people. Can't help it, it's just the way I am. And so my routines, my my stuff I do on my own, the things I do, my daily rhythms, matter more to me than keeping up appearances with other people. I can't help it, that's just the way it is. I get more upset, more devastated if a routine changes. That's, you know, someone else will get more devastated over something happening to another person. I get more devastated if a routine changes. By the way, that doesn't mean I don't care about other people. Remember, it's all relative. But this is because I do care about people, but this is like basically something that is doing my autism that I can't control, essentially. Unless you were to take my brain out and do something to my brain, it's just in my brain. It's like hardwired. And for these neurodiversity people to try and make out that autistics don't have a problem with empathy, or that are actually super empathetic, that's not the autism I have. They're creating a new condition. Maybe a new condition that has super empathy needs to be included in the DSM, because maybe there is such a condition out there, but like I said, it's not the condition I have. And I'm sure there are other autistics who are probably watching this now who can relate to what I'm saying. I feel that we're being turfed out of our own condition, essentially, by what I would call people who aren't even autistic. That's not to say they don't have a condition, but I think they need to create a new condition for these people so that they can get the help they need, because they need help, these people. I'm not denying, they need help. People like Sykes, she's entitled to help and support just like any other person, but I just do not think these people are autistic. They don't have what I have. That's the thing. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking now, because I could be here until Kingdom Come, but like I say, I have got a lot to talk about. I really just wanted to express my dislike of this whole neurodiversity, double empathy stuff. In another video, which will be another time, because if you think about it, so I'm going off, but if if you think about it, like effective empathy, what I don't understand is that effective empathy, in order to have effective empathy, you need to be tuned into other people, don't you? And autism literally means self-state. That's kind of the original definition. And in a self-state, you're going to be divorced, to a greater or lesser extent, from other people. Obviously, this takes many different forms. At one extreme, usually those who are non-verbal and also have an associated intellectual disability, this detachment from other people can be most profound. I guess that would be like a stereotype of an autistic sitting in a corner, I don't know, spinning the wheels of a toy car in front of their face and ignoring when their mum calls their name, completely oblivious to the sound of her voice. That's one extreme of autistic detachment. That is like extreme self-state. You get that in really extreme, profound types of autism. And then you get, but this self-state, this self-withdrawal basically takes different forms depending on where you are and what type of autism you have, I guess. In my case, when I was a kid, I would often just run off and do my own thing. I wouldn't come back. If I was called, I would be giggling and running and completely oblivious. So that's kind of the form it would take for me when I was younger. Obviously, it takes different forms as you get older and at different points in your development. Autistic withdrawal from others can just be like me, I guess, just doing your own routines day in, day out, and basically not having a great social drive to make friends and stuff like that. And the handicap is, the disability is, for someone who's aware like I am, bearing in mind that I do have awareness, those profound autistics, they won't have the awareness. I have some awareness about this situation. It doesn't make it easier having awareness. In some cases, it can actually make it quite painful because you're aware of what you're missing. I do have some desire. I would, in theory, like to have friends, but the problem is, and that's how, like, I guess my type of autism is different to types of autism where it's kind of I have an ambivalence. Part of me does want to make friends, and part of me doesn't, because the idealistic part of me likes the idea. But when it comes down to it, I don't have the energy or the social motivation to put into friendship what friendship would entail. That's the problem. But anyway, I will carry on talking about this another time, because I do want to also talk more about, to give you some more examples, I guess, when I was growing up, about how I dealt with other people and like the problems with empathy and how they're expressed. I do want to do a video on that at some point. So thank you for watching.